So for the presentations tonight, there's no set format. I told the four people, you're the guinea pigs, you're setting us up. We'll see. One thing I'm gonna keep in mind is, we're about dollars and cents here. What are the extra needs of this budget beyond what they've gotten in the past? Either one-time needs or ongoing needs. If the person presenting has an opinion about how important these needs are to be funded, I wanna hear that. And also, is there the opposite? Is there any room in this budget to reduce the budget to free up money for other things? I want to remind us the time around this table is precious. At the start of the year, I said in meetings and outside of meetings that I do expect people to work outside of the meetings on their own time to help with the warrant committee, but hopefully as a trade-off, we'll try to balance that with reduced time around this table. Now, the last meeting we were talking about schools, we did start to go beyond the high-level budget questions for the schools. I let that go farther than I normally would have because we didn't have anything else on the agenda, but I probably shouldn't have because people's time is valuable, even if there's nothing else on the agenda for that night. I don't like reining in discussions, it's against my nature, but I think I will need to I want to keep us focused, respect everybody's time, keep the time around the table precious. So that's my intro.
I appreciate that, by the way.
Thank you, because it's not fun for me to say, hey, you, stop getting off topic.
One of the hardest parts of facilitating,
Yeah, but I have to keep in mind, there are 14 other people that want to keep things going. And I encourage people to have all these discussions outside the meeting. Please, I saw how people were chatting. I had to stop chatting, just start this meeting. I'm glad you want to chat. Stay focused here. So, I've got 4 things on the agenda. The first one I have is the library budget overview from Lee Michael McLean.
Hi. Would you mind calling up the PowerPoint quickly?
You'll have to give, well, no, not quickly.
So I met with the library director, and when I rejoined the warrant committee, well, all of you heard Jay say early on, are there any budgets that people are particularly interested in? And I was like, I would like the library because I know this guy and I know how well he does his write-up. So I had Karen send out this Word document, and it really, really well lays out all of the needs that the library has and how they're currently performing. So I'm going to refer to that in a minute, but if you haven't read this yet in your email, just go ahead and read it now while I'm talking because it's much better than I am.
It's well done.
Yeah. Could you go to slide 2, please? 3, sorry. Very quickly wanted to point out this one snapshot that shows Milton compared to other libraries. We are on the 3rd line there. It says 20 next to us. We're the 20th ranked town. Our population is smaller than all of those other towns. Yep. So we are the smallest town on there. And if you look to the right of population, you'll see our total circulation activity at 330,000 is significantly higher than many of the other towns that have larger populations. Keep looking to the right. You'll see that our circulation per FTE is 16,524. This is something that the library director is particularly proud of because we are circulating many more materials per full-time employee than many of the other towns. This is also a burden on the library because their resources are stretched a little thin and have been for a while. And then you see what our per person circulation is and then appropriation per
So what are these rankings based on? Is it by population or is it how does it get to 20? What is that?
I don't know what the actual rank is. It could refer to any of these columns, so depending on how it was sorted. So I'm not sure.
So there's 330,000 things that have been taken out in the library? Is that what that means, like books?
So it could be digital,
16
it could be,
per person.
Yeah. Cool. So would you mind switching to the Excel spreadsheet, please?
You have to give me a minute.
So you have this full presentation in your email from Karen earlier. There are many more slides in there. I encourage you to go and view them, but in the interest of brevity, that was the most important one that I think was in there. So now we're going to refer to a page from the actual budget, which you'll be getting if you haven't already gotten it for the ones that you're assigned to. And on the front, it's Schedule A. That is where they summarize each of the big sections that follow. Then there's a whole schedule, it's called Schedule D, that shows salary and wages. I've asked him to put up here Schedule E. Okay. And Schedule E shows pretty much all of the expenses that your department will have without salaries. So you have to look at salaries separately, but this will give you a really good overview of how the library is laid out. And I just wanted to tell you, nobody ever showed me how to read this, so column C, you see it says A above it, so I'll refer to those letters in the parentheses. So column A is fiscal year 2025. That was the original budget that was approved. And you can see that for some reason, some budget adjustments were done in column B later in fiscal year 2025. So their electricity line was reduced by $10,000. That's explained in the narrative if you want to know more about that. So to the right of that, column C is just column A minus column B. So you can see what the actual ending budget was for fiscal year 25. So now you want to look at the next two columns. You see the actual in column D, and then you see what budget minus actual was. So the easiest thing to do is to scan column E first and be like, okay, so how did things end up compared to what the budget was? And you can see we came in $600 under on the stormwater line. We went over 20 grand on the electricity. We went over 26 grand on information tech. So the quickest thing to tell if the department is doing well is how wild are these swings? How off are they? Are they hundreds of $1,000s on a tiny budget, or So some of those are reasonably large swings for the size of that line, and he actually explains in this narrative here that especially the information. Or is it the information tech there?
Technology stuff.
Yeah, so there was a change in contracts in terms of timing for going from owned software to annually subscribed software, and replacing some equipment that needed to be replaced. So he goes into detail about why that happened. So then so that's like the look back. The look forward is you can look at for fiscal year 26. You have a different version. Oh no, I can see the 27 now. I had to come closer to it. I couldn't see the fiscal year 27. So on the columns F and the one next to F, to the right of it, you can see that we have 26, which is appropriated. That's what the Warrant Committee last year recommended to town meeting and what town meeting approved. That's the appropriated column for 2025, the year that we're in right now. We don't have actuals yet because that year is happening right now, but we can compare what was appropriated for this current year to what we're recommending or would be recommending for next year. And again, you want to look for big swings. What are the major changes between those two columns? And then you look to try to explain them or ask the the department head what explains that difference. Salary page rarely changes, but you can do the same thing to the salary page. So
Salary page does have names, so that's one reason I'm not pulling it up now. It's public information.
yeah,
But just because it's public information doesn't mean I want to share it on our,
if somebody wants to look at it, I have a copy of it right here.
whoops.
So that's all we need to refer to in the two attachments for right now. Does anybody have any questions about that budget sheet? I'm going to talk now about the actual budget. I just wanted to explain how I look at that sheet. Yeah.
We're in fiscal year 26 now, right?
Yeah. So did I say 25?
No, it's
Sorry.
just confusing.
Okay.
Same spot, yeah.
I struggle constantly.
Yeah, I messed it up.
So
We're
allocating
working on
27.
27. So we have to be in 26.
Questions, I know you may not know this, but electricity, they're expecting it to go down.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that? Because that's something we can generally control.
So it was just a budget adjustment. As far as I know, it had to do with sort of the allocation through the town. We have solar panels and we have sort of like budgets allocated and the actual usage differs. So I think the true bottom line of the electricity is not largely changed, but for some reason there was an
Okay,
adjustment
no,
here.
so there's,
I did ask the question and it was a non-factor.
okay.
So the library has worked with consolidated facilities over the last several years to mitigate the costs. There was record high usage, and oh yes, the library was able to decrease usage. So they went through a program of replacing many of their lights with more efficient lights, et cetera, and
Makes
they were
sense.
actually able to bring their usage down.
So it's-
Thank you for the reminder. Okay.
Can I ask Karen, is there someone in the waiting room, maybe Elaine? Okay. Lee Michael, I appreciate you going, because everybody's gonna have big, small budgets, all of them have something like this. So I appreciate, I think we sort of glossed over Schedule A is good, which is the
That's the roll-up of all the other major
Mhm.
schedules.
and then also you'll see a tab called narrative. This one, I think points elsewhere because we've got a multi-page
This
narrative.
narrative is here.
But in a lot of them, the narrative will be where they describe, here's what's going on and here's why the budget has changed or not changed.
So all the budgets will look like that,
Yeah.
sort of? Okay. That's
Except for schools, all the budgets will look like
Okay.
this, yes.
So, do they write out that narrative for you?
The library director maintains this, and he did write it up. He writes it up for everybody. I neglected to say earlier, Jay pointed out that the library director presented recently to the select board, and, you know, he presented this document and walked through it. So you can go back and watch that if you want to, and see his full detailed presentation. But this is the thing that he gives to the town administrator to justify what his asks are and what's always available to sort of explain what's going. I'm sure he uses it with his trustees, et cetera.
Yeah, I'll say, in past years, we've had like the library director come in and give us an hour-long presentation about how great the library is. And it's interesting, but as I was talking about, valuing the time at this table. So the fact that the select board this year has had every department or series of departments come in and discuss themselves. Library especially, they did a great job. They did exactly the presentation they would have done for us at this table. So I'm saving you an hour. I think it was September 9th select board meeting.
Believe you.
Okay.
If anybody
sometime.
wants to know, ask and I'll find out.
Yeah, and it was the whole spiel of here's the library and here's why we're great. So
And that's on the website, we can just find.
it's on the
MATV.
I would go to the MATV YouTube.
Oh,
So, can I refer to the Word document, or is there any other
Sure.
questions on the budget?
Mine is-
So, you don't have to have it to follow along, I just wanted to point out a couple of things too, and I'll read them aloud. So, in here, it does talk about that number 20, it says under collection usage, in the most recent state usage reports, Milton Public Library ranked 20th out of 52 for overall collection usage in our cohort. It says this significant increase from the previous steady ranking of 45th reflects the current strong demand for library resources. It also reflects the library's ability to pivot to meet the changing needs of our community, such as digital downloads, etc. So I wanted to point out,
I can't help but notice that no matter who's talking, the camera is on me. Which I appreciate that, guys, but we'll see. Who comes in next to me?
I'll make it easy on them. So the what the library director is asking for, and what he has been asking for a while, is additional FTEs, additional employee time. So that is because demand has been growing, and he hasn't been able to add them for a while. I am going to actually read to you, that's the only section I'm gonna read to you, is on the personnel and why his justification is, because I wanna use his words. So, he says, additional staffing is the library's greatest need. In order to meet current demands, the library needs more personnel to provide the services needed in the community. Specifically, the library struggles to meet the increased demands for technology help and training, and for teen and youth services. There were no employees added from fiscal year 2019 to 23, despite increases in community attendance and our patrons' reliance on technology services. In fiscal year 24, the library added a part-time library assistant position, working 19 hours a week. The library saw immediate results with capacity to provide services to the youth and audience, offering 25% more programs in fiscal year 24 and a further 7% increase in 25. So they're getting good returns on that part-time position. So he writes, the budget includes funding 2 new positions as well as contractual increases, salary budget, and et cetera, et cetera. It says the actual numbers there. So I just wanted to point out that on that budget spreadsheet that Jay had up earlier on the Excel document, on the far right, that column said something like, what do they call it? They ask level service. I think they usually call it level service funding when the administrator goes out to the budget heads and says, all right, I'd like you to submit a first draft of your budget and have it be level service. You can't put in all sorts of things that you don't have today, that you need today, because we know that the amount of money that we're gonna have isn't gonna go up significantly, so don't ask for a bunch of stuff. So there are some things in there that increase, and they're usually contractual. So they have to do with Xerox machines and whatever else, those types of things, HVAC equipment, et cetera. So that column, those are where the big increases tend to be. He's asked for these personnel before, and so he included it in a level service budget with the support of the town administrator, because the town administrator knows that he's needed these positions for a while. So I'm almost done reading. I'll finish. The proposed budget would fund 2 positions. The full-time reference librarian will address the growing needs for outreach and communication services. This includes maintaining the library's digital, social media presence and participating in town and community events. The full-time reference librarian will also help meet the demand for increased technology training and support. These are both growing needs in public libraries that need to be addressed. This position will also work shifts on the public service desk, allowing other staff members more time for programming and other current needs, et cetera, et cetera. Proposed budget will also fund a full-time, it says part-time, a part-time children's librarian. This position would allow the library to meet the current demand for school and preschool visits, both off-site and hosted at the library. These visits are important introduction to library service for youth and families. So asking for those 2 positions, and the increase is not dramatic. It would end up being about 6% increase for just the wage line. It's not that big of an increase for the overall budget. And then he goes on to detail the various things that would be satisfied because they need to be addressed. When you read on past that, you'll see that he's put a narrative in for every one of the major line items. And he explains in pretty good detail why there have been changes and what the what the nuances according to that line are. I just wanted to point out in 5300, or library programming and events, it's on page 8. It says, this line is proposed for a $1,000 increase, which isn't dramatic. The library offers over 800 programs a year for people of all ages, and many of these programs are provided by staff, but a significant number involve experts, presenters, such as musicians, artists, etc. And we don't fund those guys. It says, all additional funding for library programming is currently provided through the fundraising efforts of the Friends of the Milton Public Library. So let's publicly thank the Friends of the Milton Public Library, who provided $40,000 of our $45,000 programming budget. That's a lot. So they're carrying the load there for us, which is amazing. So thank you for that work. That's pretty much it. That's the presentation. Yeah, I'm ready for questions. Yep.
Just a quick one. For the Schedule D, salary and wages, under full-time, there's a vacancy that's approved. And then under part-time, there's a vacancy that's not approved. So these 2 positions they're asking for are in addition to these vacancies.
I can't answer that question. I'm sorry.
It seems pretty clear that they're not, because the total of 1.4 foots to the, to the Word
So
document.
they must have the open positions.
They're in
right
there
now.
as vacant, is what no, so if you look at the, sorry if I'm not being clear.
Yeah.
If you look at the total salary and wage expense at the bottom in cell M50, it's 1.4 million, and that ties out to the 1.4 million in the narrative, which tells me that those 2 vacant positions are those exact 2 positions that they're referring to.
Oh, I see.
It looks like one's approved and one's not approved.
So he's included them in this look.
Correct.
I gotcha.
It's just strange it says approved and the other one says not.
That is interesting. I
someone-
don't know what
That's
that
kind of
means.
If someone knows more than I do, you can speak to it. I think approved and not approved means the personnel board has approved this.
Oh, yeah.
So you can go, and I learned this from the library guy,
Forgot.
the personnel board can approve a person, but if they're not in the budget, they're not getting hired. So he's had people approved for years that haven't actually been hired.
It's just not budgeted.
Yeah, so you have to justify the position by saying what they would do and how much it would cost and everything, and then that board either gives it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but that is like a totally separate process in addition to actually having a person and hiring them and getting it approved by town meeting, et cetera, for the budget.
Great information.
Any other questions? It's a very tightly run operation. They're doing a very good job. They have limited staff. They haven't added staff for a long time. And I would support their request if our budget allows it.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, sorry. How much else?
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear they're hopefully gonna get those positions. Adjacent question, I know there's an issue of parking at the library.
Yeah.
Who does that fall under to solve?
He's attempting to solve it
I'm gonna say,
through-
going back to what I said at the beginning, I'm gonna roll this in, I'm gonna give you a little bit of leeway, but that's not related to the budget, so.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Well, does
mean-
money need to be spent on it, is a reasonable question, and money might eventually need to be spent on it. He's currently in discussions to try to free up some space on the other side of sort of that pump house building that is on land adjacent to the library. So it wouldn't be contiguous with the current lot, but not everybody's in love with that. But they are looking for additional space around there, and yes, he acknowledges that it's a problem and that they're working on it.
But, it's a different committee for
The master plan implementation committee started.
the capital improvements committee.
Oh, you mean who would pay for the?
Isn't that a separate?
That
budget?
item, it's under a different budget.
Yeah, if that's.
There
if-
might be
if that is
project
I
scoping,
mean, I
there
think
could be all
that's-
sorts of things.
I worked on libraries, I think, 2 years ago, and knowing that this is a need.
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
wanna understand
Thank
where it
you.
fits into our future
Yeah.
planning thoughts.
He said there isn't an ask right at the moment.
There isn't an ask for it?
Yeah,
It's
he's
not.
not asking for money to address that at
Right,
this
but
moment.
to Larry's point, I think it's somewhere else. I remember seeing it as a,
Oh, I mean, if it were,
yeah.
I think that somebody who has an interest in the land wants to do something different or keep it the way it is. So I don't know all of the ins and outs of the conversation, but that's why I said not everybody agrees with the go forward plan yet. So it's not like they're trying to vote on that.
Yeah.
They're still working through it.
Brian, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a couple. Did you say they're hiring a full-timer and a part-timer?
Yeah.
Is there a way that they could hire, because part-timers, they pay 20 hours, they have to pay benefits. They get 20 hours, to hire, like convert it into a full-timer, so they don't have to pay the extra 20,000 to the town, for health benefits? Is there a way to convert, because they have a slew of part-timers to convert the person they're gonna hire into a full-timer?
How does making them a full timer save money? Oh,
Well, they have to pay health benefits for anybody who works 20 hours a week.
I thought it was 30 hours.
You know
You're
what,
saying
that's
if
a,
I think
that's
it's
a,
part-time.
30 hours.
no,
not
for
20.
towns, I looked it up,
Oh,
for
really?
towns, it's
Oh,
20.
okay.
You're
But
saying
for
if the
private
part-timers are already
businesses-
getting it?
Private businesses, it is 30.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have to pay it, so it's another $20,000 for every part-timer you have that works 20 hours. And that's, might be one of the reasons why that's contributed to the health costs. Doesn't
Or
show up
stepping
on their
back,
budget.
like, did he discuss why we're adding a part-timer instead of taking a part-timer and making him a full-timer?
No, I could ask that question. I'm sure my guess is that it's a balance of how much it would cost. He looks for where his areas of greatest needs are, and he needs somebody in the children's room, some amount of hours, and he needs somebody who can do, digital support and reference. So it's like, where does he need the hours? But I don't actually follow your train of thought. How does making somebody from part-time to full-time save money?
So if you have somebody who works 40 hours a week, they
Yeah.
get 20,000 in benefits.
Yeah.
But if you have two people that work 20 hours a week, they each get 20, so then it's $40,000 total in health benefits. And one of the issues, one of the
I
issues is,
see.
it doesn't
Is that
show
what
up
you're
on the individual budgets. If it did, they'd see it, like he would see that. But it's in the town budget, so it kind
Yeah.
of gets lost.
My guess is that these are highly specialized positions that require training and like licensure in some cases, and also, so it's not just like anybody can fill 6 different roles.
Yeah.
But maybe it's possible. I'm sure that I'll ask the question.
There's one part-timer that's a reference librarian who works 32 hours a week, so that person would have to convert, or 16 hours a week. So that person who's skilled would have to convert to 40 hours a week. So my guess is that person doesn't want to do
I
that.
will say that,
And they're not getting benefits.
the
at 16
the
hours.
librarian director may or may not be thinking about health insurance, but I'm certain that Nick Milano is. So when this comes to him, if Nick Milano thinks what you're thinking, that he would push back in that way.
I kind of think he has a good explanation for this. I just don't know what the answer is.
Probably.
I'll ask
He
him.
seems on top of things.
He has his staffing needs.
Did you say you had one more question, Brian?
It's, yeah, it was an email. Are there metrics on how many people, he says he wants two more people, a person and a half. Are there metrics on, like, he hasn't hired anybody since 2019, right? Like, how many people have gone through the library that, like, could kind of justify it? They keep those things?
Yeah,
A lot of that was in the narrative.
I had just, yeah, there's a lot of how much it's increased over the years is in the narrative. And then that first slide that I showed us compared to other towns, and it shows that we pretty dramatically have much higher circulation per full-time employee compared to those other towns. Because we have been getting more with less for several years, so we know that we're working them hard. But yeah, there's a bunch of percentages in there to various ways. Digital has obviously gone up significantly. I think paper borrowing is somewhat stable. Number of programs has gone up, et cetera.
So we're doing stuff like teen women.
Yep, people are accessing it in a lot of different ways for different reasons. It's not just take out a book.
So can I clarify? I think you made this clear, but I need it really dumbed down for me. Are you saying that your understanding is the town administrator's budget that he's going to propose will include this extra 1.5 person?
He said that
Maybe we can't speak for the town administrator, but.
he said, yeah, because the town administrator right now is collecting the budgets from all of the different town departments. So, you know, he has spoken with these people and he told Adam to include this, I'm sorry, Will,
Okay.
to include this in the past. But I don't know, there could be some other pressing need in another department. He may rebalance priorities before he submits it to us, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay, so Mr. Milano asked him to include this.
Yeah.
Hope we're not getting anybody in trouble here. But he's also asked it in the past, but then not.
Right, but it hasn't been
Okay,
approved.
so it's a maybe or maybe not at this point.
To come before us from Nick?
Yeah, it may or may not be recommended by the town administrator.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm gonna guess it's gonna be in there unless there's a surprise. Because if it got onto this sheet and got to
Okay.
me, I would think that it's gonna be in Mr. Milano's
Although I guess we
submission.
shouldn't get anybody in trouble here. I mean, until Mr. Milano puts together the whole budget
Yeah.
in January,
Yeah.
he doesn't know what's gonna move
Right.
where, so.
Right now, it has his support. Or as of when I had this discussion with him.
Mr. Milano has my number, so he'll be like buzzing me.
Anything
if
else on the
we're
library?
getting out of line.
I didn't see the metrics, but like, maybe there's something that you can ask Will, he's on.
You wanna know how much things have increased since the last time we added staff?
Yeah, that's something like that.
Meaning the usage?
Or
Yeah.
or the people
Like, there's
visiting.
some metrics that say, oh, we had so many employees for this amount of books taken out versus, or
What's not
something
the
like that.
utilization?
You know, that would justify it.
Yeah,
You never know.
I'll ask him for that first slide over the last 5 years or something, and then that'll show us.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I do know that when I spoke to him about adding a person 2 or 3 years ago, he had specific, and maybe that's in the narrative, which I apologize I didn't read. I asked him about outreach for seniors, and he's like, yes, this person we're gonna add would do these 3 things just for seniors and it'd top everything else, so. I apologize, that's probably in the narrative that I just didn't read, so I'll shut
You
up
will
now.
get to it. Sorry, it only went out this morning.
Okay. That's the library, and that's questions about the library. Are you ready to move on to the next one? Health Department? Okay.
Come up next to you.
I don't see it moving.
I don't either.
Okay. I apologize. I have all of that same, we have the budget and the narrative, like Lee Michael does for the library. I didn't share it yet because we just got it on Friday. I say we, I roped Cecile into, doing the public health, Department of Public Health with me.
And I would like to say how much I support that, because, you know, like I said at the beginning of the year, officially, we're gonna have one person on each of these items, mostly to avoid the stickiness of having a subcommittee. But lots of us are interested in lots of things. Lots of us need help. Pull in a friend, offer to help a friend out, offer to help a friend out if they're working on something you're interested in. All right, I'll shut up now.
So,
Do you have a question about that, Larry?
Process question, but, you know, I can wait till the end, it's fine.
Okay.
so I can send all of that, to Karen afterwards, who can send it all to you, so you can see the level of detail that you just saw with the libraries. But Cecile and I met with, the director, Caroline Kinsella, on Friday. And, long story short, they will be requesting a budget of $458,079 for FY '27. That's a level service budget. The largest portion of that is salaries. It's 93% of the overall budget. They have 4 full-time staff members and 2 part-time staff members who are funded, through the town, and then they have 3 part-time positions that are grant funded. So all of that is included in that, in the $458,000 overall budget for FY '27. It was pretty mind-boggling how much the Department of Public Health does, I gotta say. And at the risk of underrepresenting, I'll just name some of the things. And Cecile, if I leave things out, please jump in. But we have over 80 food establishments here in Milton that require an annual permit. And that's just I know.
That's one of the
See, I hear your gasps, yes.
0?
And so they require an annual permit, which is its own process, the permitting process, but then there's the inspections of those establishments, which depending on the risk of the establishment could be 1 to 4 times a year. So that is obviously a significant part of their workload, and that does not include like food trucks and farmers markets and the sort of, mobile food type establishments. They deal with substance misuse, they deal with mental health, they deal with communicable disease investigations, they deal with camps, like summer camps, so they do plan reviews, inspections, immunization records. They deal with animal inspections, which also, rodent activity, things like that, but also horse stables and chicken coops. They deal with housing, abandoned housing, septic system inspections, plan reviews, soil evaluations, emergency preparedness training, including bioterrorism, hazardous material collection, burial permits, emergency food bags. There's you can get Narcan now at the public health department. And then they've done like community health surveys, and they have developed a grant application to award funding for family and community support from the opioid settlement money that Milton gets. So that's just a snapshot. I do not claim that is everything they do, but
There were 4 of them?
there are 4 full-time, 2 part-time, and that all funded through the town, and then 3 part-time grant funded. But yes, it's exactly, yes. So apart from salaries, their next 2 biggest line items are the permitting software that we talked about. That sounded relatively new. Making that up. Yeah, but it's called Permitize.
For the building.
Yes, yeah, it's a townwide, yeah.
Okay.
So that is, $10,000+ a year. And then training and education and professional licensing is another $10,000 line item. So as you can imagine, to do all of these things in compliance with, state regulations, they need to maintain a lot of certifications and licenses. So that's another, the other sort of big line item for that department. The only thing that seems significant to me, but again, Cecile, jump in if you disagree, from last year to this year is they're wanting to move $8,000 from the general expenses part of the budget that used to be paid to Seacoast Engineering, who they used to outsource all of the septic permitting issues to for review of those things. The town used to incur those costs on behalf of the homeowners, but as of, I think, October 1 of this year, they're changing to the homeowners will now incur that cost. So that $8,000 is kind of freed up, and what they would like to do with that money is move it to salary and wages and hire a per diem nurse to begin a parent and newborn support service program. And that's because the state has adopted a model that defines essential public health services that they think should be available in all communities. And maternal, child, and family health is one of those areas. So it's an area that Caroline's very excited about, the possibility of having this part-time per diem nurse to get started on that program, but TBD if that will be approved, if that change, shifting that $8,000 will be approved or not.
Can I, you go first. You're not gonna the same question.
Random question, are there a lot of septic systems in Milton?
That was not my question.
Yeah, there are some streets that do
I'm just,
not
I'm really
have.
wondering, like,
On
yeah,
Brush Hill Road, my house was the
Oh, I
last
could see
house
that,
that
yeah.
was on the sewer line. Everybody else had septic systems.
So mostly Brush Hill, maybe?
I don't know mostly or other streets,
I
but
think
know
it's like
for
certain
sure.
parts of town that are more
Sorry.
kind of
Think so.
rural and further away from,
By Highland,
town.
like, yeah, hillside.
Scott's Woods.
yeah, she said there's usually about 7 a year.
That
What?
get built.
No,
or
that get-
refreshed. or whatever,
yes.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
My question was gonna be how far $8,000 will go for a nurse.
Not very, it'd be like 3 to 4 hours a week.
Is that something they could get grants for?
Um,
Get initiative?
Good question. I don't know. And then we can get as into this as we want, but the opioid settlement money is $1.3 million to Milton through 2038. So right now, there's over $400,000 in that fund available. And I think it started being dispersed in 2021 or 2022, but she said there was little to no guidance at first. So a lot of towns were sort of like sitting on it and waiting because no one wanted to misspend it. And now there has been some more. So that's part of that program that they, or the grant application that they developed for these sort of small community-led projects for up to $20,000 each would come from that money. I also said, oh, I know, because we've heard from Chief King with the police department many times how valuable their social worker has been and how that's a huge need of theirs. And I was like, oh, would you be able to? And she's like, oh, I don't know. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways
Oh,
that money.
fund that through the opioid?
Yeah,
Or fund another one?
yeah.
So you think this could be funded through that too?
Well, my
know
point
that.
is just, I think there are a lot of creative ways in which that money could be used. I don't know if this could be one of them or not, but I agree. I think it's a great idea, and I think $8,000 is not enough. But I think it's you start somewhere and go for it. And she's also looking at other communities that have implemented this program to sort of see what they're doing and see if we can mirror any of that.
I guess I would worry if it's worse than offering nothing, if you offer something and only a few parents can get it.
Well, and again, this was,
Maybe not a
I
helpful
asked,
comment.
I asked a very basic, like, how would you even know who in Milton has had a baby? Because I had a baby in Milton, I don't think the town would know. Like, I don't think there's any systems in place. Yeah, right, they just go around looking for baby showers. And she was like, we literally haven't even gotten that far. Like, so
Okay.
it's very preliminary.
It's like census or like,
Well, by the time it's
By the time,
census.
yeah.
My kids were born in Boston and then.
That's what I said. I said my kids were born in Boston, so the
So
birth
how would you
certificate
even
goes to
know,
Boston.
right?
Yeah. So these are the logistical things that would need to be figured out. But I can understand she doesn't want to put time into it if it's not going to be allowed. So first, the
Yeah, that's a great idea.
the shift would need to be approved. So that's the 30,000-foot view. Happy to go into more details if I have them, or Cecile, anything that I left out that you think?
So it sounds like big picture is no change. I mean, their pay increases every year, but
Yep.
no change, with possible exception of moving a small amount from one line item to another.
Correct. And they need a new vehicle, but they're putting in a capital request for that, so,
Okay.
So is their entire budget salary, or is there?
pretty much. I mean, apart from the, the trainings and, the permitting software, and then, their other general expenses are very.
So they have to pay for their permit because the building department uses the same software, so
I'm assuming every department probably pays.
it's a certain percentage if they
I would
use it.
guess,
Oh, that's
but-
interesting, okay.
The 3 part-timers that are getting paid through grants, those grants expiring, or is there, what type of grants are they in?
So there's the drug-free community grant, which is $125,000 a year. We're in the 8th year of 10 years. My understanding was it was initially 5 and we got another 5. I don't know if there's a possibility of another 5. I should have asked that. And then there's a Mass in Motion grant, which is $30K a year. That funds one of those 3 positions. And I'm unclear.
It's 2 drug-free community, so there's 2.
Right, there's 2 under the drug-free community, and then the Mass in Motion grant. Do you know how long that goes for? Sorry?
12 years?
12 years.
That's good.
Geez, I had no idea they did so much. I mean, somebody gave a presentation at town meeting one time. It was like the same thing. Everybody was like, wow. You know?
Well, and when you see, I mean, she lists out in the narrative all the trainings and certifications, and it's like, oh, yeah, that you'd need all of them, but that's a lot for such a small staff, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thanks a lot.
Can I just add that I asked Will for the a year-over-year analysis, but in the slides that I sent you, it doesn't go back as far as you want, but to at least fiscal year 21, it shows the increases in the various types of things that are circulated. This graph in particular shows that the children's attendance went way up compared to the teens and the adults, and that's showing the demand in the children's area for that position.
Is
So
that a
there are a
COVID
few things in
thing?
here. What?
Is that like it was really low during COVID and?
I think it's just been increasing. I don't know, maybe those kids just got to a certain age.
Okay.
It says fiscal year 21, so.
Probably right.
So that would've been,
Maybe
As COVID
increasing
comes to it
kids.
then.
I mean, that's just like, what you're showing is like a 5 times increase. I'm seeing the green line.
Does it say, maybe it says it in here. I don't remember.
I don't think I didn't look at it.
We got it like minutes before the meeting. I sent it to
Yeah.
you half an hour before the
Karen
meeting.
sent it this morning.
The PowerPoint?
On the PowerPoint, we just.
Oh, no, the PowerPoint,
The
no.
narrative, 6:45.
Yeah, I wanted you to focus on the narrative. Sorry.
I'll show this real quick screen there.
It's less than
Yeah.
It's a PDF, if that helps, yeah.
So, yeah, going from 4,000 to 15,000,
Oh, I
I've
see,
got
I
to
see.
think COVID
Yeah.
is a part of that.
Yeah, I think so. It's
So-
probably like an echo of COVID.
Yeah.
So
But
I
everything
think
else
it's
is flat
this.
as a pancake, so
It's-
like there is something special about children.
That includes programs. So that's not just materials borrowed. So in here it says the number of story times, concerts, discussions, and other events offered for all users of ages, blah 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 blah. So they've been purposely trying to increase those programs, which drove that. Yeah.
And they have like Zoom things for kids, so I'm sure all of that is counted.
because COVID sort of, yeah,
21,
22,
22,
the
yeah.
public health emergency.
I mean, it's a lot by any measure. 15,000 in a town of 28,000 is a lot by any measure.
Well-read town.
Okay. Brian, next on the agenda is consolidated facilities.
I was so intimidated by Michael's rhetoric. So, I found out he didn't do this.
I'm not the only one.
I gave people no guidance. I wanted these 4 people to sort of lay the groundwork of, here's how they're gonna be, so.
I don't have a presentation here.
Everybody
Start
does it
on
differently, and that's
Again,
fine.
this isn't my work. This is the library director's work.
There you go. It's the way to do it.
Do you want me to sit beside you, or?
Yes, please.
Set mine to you guys, just 5 minutes.
Yeah, the key is get a budget run by someone whose job is literally to tell stories.
It's like cheating almost. It's like cheating.
I have like answers. Right.
There could have been some puppets here.
Not consolidated facilities.
There's
There's some good stuff in this
Never
one.
went
Where'd she get that?
There's good ones.
I did not.
He's left over from town
This is
hall.
better.
I did library last year, though. I did library.
Town meeting.
Is that you did it?
No, I actually had dinner. 'cause I
Might,
don't come here
might need to
now.
speak to what consolidated facilities is.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with that.
Okay.
I just sent this around, I probably should have sent it to everybody in the end, but, consolidated facilities, I pulled some of this from the website, because it was a good summary, but they do the professional management of the facilities and some of the grounds of all the town buildings. And that includes schools too. Let's see, they were created in 2010. They're responsible for the coordination and care of town and school facilities. There were presently 4 elementary schools, 1 middle school, Milton High School, library, art center, animal shelter, DPW complex, 6 buildings, senior center, police station, firehouses, and a chemical building. There are 27 buildings that they, let's see. They do the maintenance and repair, landscaping and pedestrian snow removal, capital projects, service contracts, green communities projects and grants, energy and utility procurement. If they don't do the actual work, then they contract it out, which is the case in some of the instances, a lot of instances. But they basically oversee the maintenance of the town-owned property. Let's see.
I'll say they were created through like an efficiency project way back when, because it used to be dispersed throughout the town between schools and the town and different departments. And they brought them together in order to save a significant amount of money, and it actually increased a lot of people's satisfaction because the consolidated facilities department's been very proactive and responsive to the departments over the years.
Right. Yeah.
How long,
Um,
when was that anyways? Is that a recent thing?
2010.
I would have thought it was more recent, just because I joined town meeting after 2010, and I think it was in, you and I joined town meeting, and, sorry, I'll stop. It was around then.
I don't really know, it's on the
Okay,
website, it's
that's fine.
2010. So, they have a staff of 11. There's a director, senior administrator, operation manager, and HVAC tech, which is pretty interesting. That's very technical, a roofing tech, an electrician tech, a painter, and 4 laborers. So that's that. I don't know if you can pull up the budget, and I'll talk about that for a minute,
That's what you emailed us?
Yeah.
If you give me a minute, yeah.
if you don't mind. I have some questions, I wouldn't say, it's not done, but they've started it. So one thing to know is that most of the employees in the town are union employees, and they're negotiating a contract, so they've not budgeted for the increases in that, so, as they shouldn't. And so you don't really know what it's gonna be. I don't know when that's up.
Well, what's the current contract time? Do we know? Is it 5 years? Is it?
They're all up.
They're 3-year contracts normally.
Yeah, no, that's,
I think pretty much, yeah, I'm pretty sure they all
The
are.
library is now out of contract, and I think every other department is too.
Well, the school said, 2 weeks ago, they said that they got a 1-year contract,
Okay.
which I didn't understand that.
So these are gonna be
So-
retro once they're finally negotiated?
It's, I think they're starting to
You
accumulate.
got the financial piece, I just read all this. The other one I sent you.
The other one, okay. And I will say, I know some of the assignments I made were sort of vague and maybe hard to understand. I assigned somebody to, contracts, and it wasn't, maybe it was somebody who was on the phone. And my point was, you're not negotiating the contract, you're even learning, just answer this question, when did the contract expire, period. That's the only, oh, I'm sorry, 2 attachments. I'm
So your
sorry.
various narratives might say it. This narrative, I think, so.
you got lucky.
Hold on, used my prior experience
No,
to
you're
my
right. No,
advantage.
that's smart. You're smart. That's all I know. It's very
Okay.
smart.
Make sure I'm.
Now
moving
we're in the
forward.
budget. Sorry, that's kind of expensive.
Do that. Library first.
That's the summary, but if you wanna go to the general expenses, because the salaries don't really mean anything right now.
Okay.
Although this is a small change. So I added some percentages to this, and I basically just tried to,
Whoops, sorry,
that's okay.
my mistake.
You guys both can read this, right?
You could be a little bit
Can you?
bigger.
No problema.
We'll see.
I'll explain this, but I have some issues with this. So I'm also in the town budget committee. And One thing that I think is struggling, and I mentioned this last time, it's like they don't do a month-to-month budget. They do an annual budget. So when you look at this budget,
Sorry,
you
I'm
see, this is 2025 budget, 2025 actual. This is 2026 appropriated. And we're 4 months into the year, but they don't have like how we're doing to those 4 months to 4 months. And there's really no good way to do it unless to try to spend a lot of time doing it. And I do think that's a weakness, and I think it would be easier and better.
The accounting department should have it though. They don't?
They have to, no, they don't do it that way.
Their software.
They have to chase it down, like you say, how are we doing this year? They have to.
We have to have a whole different system for that, don't you?
Yeah, and they talked about that. Like,
It's easy for the things that are recurrent every week, but there are contracts like all throughout the year and stuff that.
Yeah, but usually they straight line it and then come in with the expenses against it in the budget.
yeah, if it was known, but like everything, there's such seasonality to so much of this town, to every town budget. Never mind, like.
Can you give an
contracts and stuff.
example? I mean, if you're not talking about salaries.
Well,
can you give an example?
school salaries or like the contracts.
Something you're talking about here.
You know what's a good one?
Stormwater.
Snow plowing.
Okay,
So, you know, that's a
so
big
far so
chunk.
good.
And so far, so good, but like in February, we had a budget.
Okay.
You know, if you knew what the snow plowing budget from July to November should be technically zero, so it looks good.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not, so you get a distorted view on like how much.
So they never know at any point in time on the month where they are overall?
Yeah.
Accounting
Unless
doesn't
they
know that?
look into it, and then they gotta try to piece it together. You know? So, I wouldn't say it's like a best practice, but, they've talked about, you know, I'm on the town budget group, and they did talk about changing the software so that they could do that. I think that would be a huge improvement for them.
I was thinking of mentioning that sometime tonight. Yeah, I believe it was about 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting.
Yeah.
No, this is the group it's me and Brian, it's 2 members of the select board, 2 members of the school committee, 1 member of the planning board. And we were talking about something about this, and one of the members of the select board said, it's crazy that all this is done in Excel. There's better software in the year 2025. And I'm paraphrasing, you can watch the meeting from 2 weeks ago. Mr. Milano said, yeah, we know about the software that's out there. It would do what we want. It would cost $30,000 a year. And the select board members immediately said, do it. And me and maybe Brian even said, I was a little less on the gun, but I said, I think there would be support from the warrant committee for that also, so.
Yeah.
Because that software, I mean, it can support seasonality, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it can handle the seasonal
Yeah, it's the
costs.
companies, like it's SageWorks, I think that they were looking at, right? The accounting system SageWorks.
I heard that name.
That's what they were using,
Is that-
and so it does big companies for, yeah.
I mean, without having Mr. Milano or Ms. Dexter here, I don't want to speculate too much about what they can or can't do. You may be right, but I don't want to. Was there something?
I think it would be like, I think it would be good if, like, each department, man, I don't know who does the budgets for all the, does Amy do all the budgets for all the departments?
In what way?
I think she does the preliminary, like.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the thing would be if you went to a different system like that, then my thought would be each department does their own budget and then presents it to them, type of thing.
Ryan, it's Andrew.
Oh, Andrew's got his hand up. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying to remember exactly what I heard last year, but that you recall that I think Amy Dexter today has to run reports for each individual department, and part of it is that the software that they have does not support sort of more modern features. And they had thought about upgrading. Cost was a concern. I had brought up that it's a pretty sound investment, especially if it, one, reduces the workload, two, for Amy, two, it shifts accountability to and provides visibility to people or departments that need more insight into it. And if I recall correctly, part of what was holding up any additional investment was that some of the people that were in the warrant committee last year will recall there was I think it was a time and attendance system that they wanted to make a decision on that they thought would drive whatever system they would work with on the accounting side. And I rose a pretty big stink, and I thought it should be the inverse, that you should have the best accounting system for what reporting needs you have, and then find time and attendance system that work for the school system and for the town that would work with the accounting system. And so that's where I recall the conversation having stopped last year.
I remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember that much detail, but I will say that, again, 2 weeks ago, several members of the select board, as well as me and Charlie Bryan, said, strongly encouraged Nick Milano, he brought this up, and we said, yes, do that.
I think,
I'm wrong, he didn't bring it up, but.
we had the override last year, and I think they were struggling with how much it should be and this and that at different times of the year. This is something that would help them a lot easier, a lot cleaner.
Was there stuff you want to talk about?
Yeah, just a few things. Like,
here?
for example, if you want to see this, like, if you went back, this is what was appropriated in 2026, 31,000, budgeted 43,000, because in 2025 they spent 42,000. So that 51,000 that they budgeted in 26 is probably from 24. So that's like how, the numbers that they're budgeting are behind sometimes, and that's a good example of that.
This is how the schools ran into trouble with misbudgeting. The carryover number.
They're carrying over, but not including like an increase or expected in any of their numbers. So they're not, do they anticipate any of these line items being hit potentially bad by like storms or anything like that? They'd have to pad the numbers?
I don't think so. I think there's a tendency sometimes to not be sure of what the number is, so that they tend to go up a little bit than when I'm not sure. So I actually have questions on this, so I wouldn't ever say, like, approve this, because I don't think it's ready. But one of the things that's down here is that these contract cleanings, a lot of these came from other departments, and they moved it because they felt that it should be under consolidated facilities because they're responsible for the contracts. Like cleaning the firehouse, cleaning the cemetery, DPW, all that.
Are those,
They come in, they set up the tables.
are those fixed, those contracts, like the year contracts?
Yes. Most of these, they're third parties. But they also have their own, they do their own up here, and they fill out, how do they do that? I think they have the amount in there, but they bill by, fire, department or whatever it is, like the fire or police or something like that.
Because I just see appropriated 20,000 for the fire, and then there's 10 for the request. Is it a decrease of 10,000?
This contract cleaning.
Yeah.
20, but then they really spent 10.
Oh, that's what they
weren't
spent,
sure
and
what
that's
it
what
was
they requested.
in 2026, because this was new.
Okay.
And then it ended up being 10, so now they're thinking it's going to be 10.
So their requests are going on what they spent last year, then, not with any increase expected.
Most times, yes. Well, sometimes 2 years earlier, because they're not really sure. I don't know if you want to go down anymore, Jay.
Sure.
There's nothing. I don't think there's
Advertising
anything,
budget.
It's cleaning supplies, janitorial supplies, uniforms is a contractual thing with the union.
Miscellaneous
Vehicle
repair
gas, they have an
project.
extra piece of equipment this year, extra vehicle, truck. Nothing really that profound. The big expense is just all the repairs that they do, which is like 27% of it, 200,000, 210,000 a year. They're just budgeting 220 because the figure's going to go up some. But they don't know.
And we can say,
They
if
got to
I
repair what they got to repair. But
go to the left a little bit. All right, so actual, what year was that? I don't know what year. I guess the year that ended the summer. Actual was 165. For the year we're in, they budgeted 210. For next year, they're saying budget 220. If it's actually 165, that would be a pleasant surprise, but.
when I say this, like 165, I would want to say, what was in that? Like like where I worked, we would list everything out so we could see if something looked abnormal, and if you might, maybe you would need to do it every year or something.
So
I
should
don't really
itemize that.
have to dig into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, should be itemized, because you're like,
Are they not they don't have itemizers?
Not in this piece.
Miscellaneous.
Is there stuff in the narrative?
I gotta dig, that's one of the
Yeah.
questions I have to dig into. which is some of it. And one of the things he wanted to do was, he did fill out the narrative. He wants to hire, his thing was to hire one full-timer, and reduce the seasonal worker. So it still costs money, reduce seasonal workers, decrease
Oh.
20,000.
Gotcha.
And his thing is that he's getting more and more requests from our schools to repair different things. So things like that.
Is he saying pay 46, but will reduce less seasonal and less overtime by
He's gonna,
35?
it says increase to 20, but he is gonna reduce the seasonal workers, is what he's saying. He says, he said one or the other. Right now, seasonal workers, $15,000. He would reduce them if he got the maintenance fee.
Okay.
But
So it's
if not, he wants to increase the seasonal workers to 20,000 if he doesn't get that.
Okay.
And he thinks that the overtime should increase to 15,000. This is an interesting thing. He says, why? So why? Because they have to, the selectmen have a meeting at COA, and they can't get in there until like 3:45 in the afternoon because they have programs running there. So the guys that do it, their shift ends about like 3:30. So that means that they're going to overtime. So they can't get into the COA until 3:45. So they're on overtime and they do it when they clean. And so his thought was maybe the selectmen could do it here. They wouldn't have that problem. It wouldn't be conflicting. Or my thought was maybe they change that guy's hours.
Yeah, shifts, split the shifts, yeah.
Should try to find a way to reduce it.
Does the janitorial staff at the schools, does that come out of the school budget? Janitorial staff?
School.
At this,
They do go around and clean though. They clean empty baskets or something. They have their own janitors.
yeah,
So
okay.
it's school budget.
But everybody, all the other smaller, like the town hall. and
Yeah, they do all the other.
facilities. Okay.
They maintain the schools as well. I think there's a difference between janitorial duties and maintenance.
Like painting.
HVAC,
Stuff.
HVAC.
HVAC is big on- big on-
Plumbing, electrical.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this will probably have a lot of overlap with capital, because are they gonna, do they think we need a new air conditioner in this building? Hopefully not this building, but that's gonna be in the capital budget, it'll be maybe the wisdom of this.
Right, I would think that would enter.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, a lot of those things you replace when they die, so you don't always have a plan. Usually. Yeah, that's the idea. So,
And there's Andrew.
Andrew.
It's a great picture.
Stage.
Great, isn't it?
High school grad.
Makes me look young.
So serious.
I gotta use a picture of you when I'm 25.
I know.
Okay, so now we're on to the IT budget.
All right. I don't have a whole narrative either.
So Brian, I'm noticing that back on the consolidated facilities, they have $4,000 on their budget for software support school dude.
That was moved, that was taken out, right?
I said school dude? That's the title?
Also, could we maybe
I've
have
heard
some
of
more
that.
gender
School
neutral titles, like not maintenance
It's not one of
man?
those things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Maintenance staff.
Dude.
I know. Yeah, my
tell you.
6-year-old calls me.
It's just strange to me. One of the issues with the IT budget, by the way, since you just mentioned that, is that there's so much software that's funded by the different departments as well as the IT department, and it's that's what I would say. There's some opportunities to consolidate those. So now they can go there. We can talk about that some other time. Yeah, so the IT department, they're a lot like the consolidated facilities. They handle IT for pretty much all the buildings in town, everything except for basically the schools. The schools have their own IT department, comes out of the IT budget. COA, the town hall, the library, police, fire, they all of their IT is handled by the IT department. The IT department it's a little different than these other departments. It has only 2 people, and actually that's enough. He had one person for a long time, finally got a second person added a couple of years ago, and now he's satisfied with the levels of work that he's able to provide with those 2 people. Most of his budget goes into some equipment, some of the technology, the actual hardware equipment, and a lot of it is actually licensing fees, certificates and things like that. So licensing fees, software licensing fees. So basically, the budget for this year hasn't really changed. Most of his big projects come out of the project budget. Capital. Sorry, they come out of the capital budget. So most of the big changes that he makes, I've listed those in my little summary here. But as far as his budget is concerned, the salary isn't really changing except for the union issues that we talked about for the other 3 departments. And then the only major changes are he installed a major change that he did last year, or that the IT department did last year, was to install a dual ring firewall. So they had a single ring firewall. A dual ring allows you to have some redundancy. And essentially what that means is that we have a data center that's, I believe it's the 3rd, there's a data center in Town Hall, and then there's another data center in the 3rd floor of Pierce. They install the firewall in both places so that if one fails, then they can cut over to the other one, which is a huge security. So that's a big improvement. So there were some holdover expenses related to that. It doubled his firewall budget, his licensing fees for the firewall. The other thing too, there was a weird thing. So it's the 2 staffers, and then they have a support organization, a consulting company called GDS that handles most of their IT. They do the network support, they do the security, they have a security operations center, and their GDS, a lot of their licensing and things like that gets filtered through GDS. GDS made an administrative error on the firewall where they hadn't charged us for the firewall support fees for 3 years. So now they're catching up this year. So there's an additional $42,000 on the budget. So they saved that money for the past 3 years, and now we're paying it this year. So there's an additional $42,000 there. That's a big one. There was also some monkey business with their VMware. So VMware is, they support their virtual servers and things like that. Everything's cloud now, so they have to use VMware quite a bit to support these virtual servers to get access to the servers. That's what VMware is for. And VMware was purchased by a company called Broadcom, which if anybody works in IT, they know who Broadcom is. They're this terrible company where the software goes to die. And Broadcom, and then of course they started messing with their licensing fees. So there was an additional $50,000 on their licensing fees for their VMware product, but he's been negotiating with them and he got it down to $20,000. But he's still working on that. He's still negotiating that. So that could go away. So those are the only real major new expenses for next year. There are quite a lot of changes that are happening, but like I said, most of those come out of the capital budget. Every year he asks for a car, and he doesn't get it. But he asked for a car this year for his budget. We'll see what Nick Milano says.
Can I pause? Does anyone in this room know? I don't. We see all those cars right next to this building. Are they shared?
Yeah.
Why would IT department have a car instead of sharing the town cars?
Public health does too. They have a car. And I have the same question.
They have their own car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't want to, it's a public meeting or whatever, I don't want to say my opinion really, but it's a fair point.
Depends on what your opinion is.
That's what he's been doing for years. They've been sharing a car or using a car.
Okay, so he currently uses one of the town's
Yeah.
cars. Okay,
Yeah, he shares a car and he would rather have his own.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you might have a case for, here's my need for using it this many days, hours a day, or whatever.
Yeah, that's right, and, he often has to use his own car. His assistant often has to use his own car. Yeah, he might have a case. I mean, he can bring that case to Nick Milano, and then if that goes into his budget, then, we'll have to discuss it here again, I think. But that would be a capital item anyways. He's also, over the past few years, this cloud migration has been ongoing. They used to have all physical servers in a data center. They've been moving over to the cloud, so the data center shrinks and shrinks and shrinks, and the cloud gets bigger and bigger and bigger, which is, just the way IT has been moving for the past many decade or so, all over the world. And so that's still going, but that's, as I said, that's a capital request, but it's still ongoing. He's in the middle of a project to move all the phones to soft phones, get rid of all the physical phones and move them over to soft phones, which are, just software phones, software-based phones. That's happening as well. And there are some outlying costs associated with that, but nothing to speak of. And then as with everything else, salary stays the same. It's not really changing. So that's basically it. The major expenses are the firewall change and the weirdness going on with the Broadcom licenses for the VMware, which hopefully will go away. So ultimately, not a lot of changes to the IT budget this year.
Cecile?
So the firewall upgrade, is that only for the physical servers?
Yes. I'm actually not sure. I would think it would probably just be for the physical servers. I would think that the firewall, they would use some kind of a firewall they would use a firewall provided by the cloud service, I would think.
So you mentioned that the physical servers are shrinking, and it sounded like we pay a fee for the firewall software. So eventually, as we migrate to the cloud, is that cost gonna go away?
No.
To the cloud.
No, you'd have you'd have a software-based firewall in the cloud.
Right.
Right, I assume we're already paying that since some of our content is already in the cloud.
So you're saying that
It depends. It depends.
Scale.
Whether you have it. I mean, it's a longer conversation, I think, but short answer is it depends on what they have in the cloud, whether it is everything in a single cloud, if they're hosting something somewhere and using VMware there, but it's not clear.
Yeah, it really depends on how it's architected, I mean, so you still have your own network. We still have our own Milton Town network. Everything's on that network. Whether it's in the cloud or physically here, it's still on our network, and you need a firewall to protect that. But whether it's a physical firewall or a virtual firewall, it's really amounts to the same thing. It's all software. But it depends on how it's architected. If you want, I could ask Rob.
So I thought for IT, one of the big issues, my impression over the past couple of years is that they've been seriously underfunded, not only on people, but on, I'm not an IT guy, so I'm just embarrassed myself if I try to say. So you say, they've got 2 people, that's enough. So that's good to hear. But as far as, and I wanted you on this because you've been on the town IT committee for how long?
3-4 years, something like that.
Okay, so where do we stand? Are we spending enough on IT? Do we have what we should have?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, there is something in the works right now with the consulting service, GDS, but I can't really speak about it because it's
Okay.
It's not fully baked. I can't speak about it. Rob specifically asked me not to talk about it.
Okay.
So there is something there. So there is a big change coming, possibly on that front. And then, but yeah, as far as staffing is concerned, I mean, he was going with just one, just himself for many years. And then once he had the assistant, he was fine. And we did a lot of analysis in the IT committee about, I mean, it seems crazy to run an entire IT department for an organization the size of the town of Milton with just 2 people. But we did a bunch of analysis, and that's pretty typical. Most towns are typically just 2 people of comparable size, even towns that are much larger than ours. Except for Saugus has like 6 people or something. I don't know how
Andrew has his hand up.
Oh, yes, Andrew, please.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions and comments thinking back to what I learned last year. One is, Jay, I agree with you. I think this is really an unusually small number, given the scope of responsibilities that they have. And I don't want to go out of scope, but I think it points to another problem that the town in general has from a technology standpoint. And when I think about the things that we learned last year, they may cover the police department, but the police department does their own purchasing for like printers and accessories, and there's no cohesive planning around and purchasing around certain assets. And then the school department runs their own IT department that's separate. The other thing I learned last year is that they had never run a full assessment, let alone a pen test, like a cybersecurity penetration test. And so I think broadly, the biggest thing that I think it's crazy that they're able to do as much as they do with the two people that they do, but strategically they're the planning around some things. I don't think there's a great global plan thinking about where the town needs to go.
That's a good point. So the consolidating the services among all the different town departments is a huge one. I mean, there's a significant amount of savings to be made there. And we recommended that in our IT committee report a couple of years ago. And they have started taking some action on that.
Can you say more about that?
So, so he's right, so there's the two, there's Rob and then his assistant, right, who handle, the town hall and the council on aging and the people that don't have like an IT guy. But then the police has like one police officer who's good with IT, who handles a lot of the support. So, if you have a problem with your laptop or whatever, you call that guy, you don't call Rob. Everybody else calls Rob. The library, the same thing, they have somebody that's just good with computers that works there. Fire, same thing. Probably consolidated facilities too. They probably have like an admin or whatever that does all that. But also they fund a lot of their software licenses out of their own budget. So you saw that school dude thing that we were just talking about. That's some software. I don't know what it does, but it seems like if you take a look at those and you do an assessment of all all that software that's purchased by other departments in town, you could probably get some savings, some savings on scale by consolidating those among all the different departments. I mean, among the IT budget in many cases. So that's something that we recommended a few years ago, and they have started moving on that. But the biggest one's the school. I mean, they get three full-time IT people at the schools that support the schools, which the schools are a big organization, so that sounds reasonable to me. But they're not. They're just for the schools. They don't come out of the IT budget. They come out of the school budget. And then they buy their own. They buy their printers separately. They buy all their equipment separately. It's just a lot of. I don't want to call it waste, but there's some savings to be had there for sure. You're absolutely right.
So
Andrew.
you say the IT committee recommended that. Did that go to Mr. Milano? Did that go to who?
It went to Rob and Nick Milano.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it went.
But it's hard. And Nick does a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so for him to be an expert on IT strategy is not a reasonable ask. And the same for anybody in the IT department, because they're probably great at what they do.
Yeah.
But they're not paid to be a strategist. And so really the question is, can anybody step back and help the finance team think about strategically what is the smartest tool to use, and how do you deploy that to the different departments across town, and how do you have a cohesive strategy with whatever the school department's doing? And that I think the biggest, and I've talked to a lot of people on the Warrant committee in the past about this, the biggest thing that the town lacks is the equivalent of a C-level executive thinking about things globally.
But didn't we funded a chief procurement officer, right?
It rings a bell. I don't. I know.
That would be,
I thought that we approved a chief procurement officer and kind of assumed that that person was hired and would do that exact thing.
yeah.
I mean, ideally, my expectation of a chief procurement officer would be negotiating government contracts with vendors like the cell phone carrier, paper vendor, et cetera, so that you're using economies of scale. But in terms of a strategy around what is a smart product to use, and what ecosystem to use across town, I mean, that's something that you would expect either some sort of CIO type or CTO type. I don't know what the municipal equivalent is to think about things. And
Yeah. Honestly, we have the IT committee as well, but, we don't have the insight. I mean, we're just a bunch of volunteers, we don't have the insight into what's actually happening in the town. You would need an employee that could do that, like a CTO, like you said. Yeah. But they have made some steps in the right direction. The police stopped buying their own printers. A lot of the police fire, they started sending a lot of their hardware requests through the IT department as opposed to just purchasing them themselves on their own budget. So there has been some movement in that direction. The schools and the library are still pretty separate.
So I'm not sure like what the next, I mean, this may not be our job, but we've raised it, we've recognized it. People on this committee who are not me seem to know what they're talking about. So what could be the next step? I'm not saying we're gonna solve this problem, but what can be the next step that someone on this committee could do to
Well,
push this in the right direction?
planning on bringing it back up to the IT committee.
my recommendation is some combination of what Larry just said. Tell the select board and Nick Milano that we think IT is seriously underinvested and that they should think about taking a step back and thinking about how do we look at IT in the town strategically, globally, rather than in single buckets. And even the amount I don't recall seeing it this year, but the last year when I saw the summary of how much they spent on the managed service provider, GDS, even that number seemed really, really small to me.
That seems really small as well.
Yeah.
I think my theory is that, these service providers that provide services to towns, they tend to be a little bit cheaper. I don't know what to tell you.
So Andrew, you're not only saying like consolidate and organize smarter, but you're saying, back to what I said earlier, that we need to invest more. I'm not totally understanding what we need to invest more in, but that's what you're saying?
Well, the cybersecurity, so the managed service provider, GDS, they provide most of the cybersecurity for us. And, but Rob expressed to me that he is, and, we've brought this up in IT committees, that, I was a victim, my company was a victim of a ransomware attack a couple of years ago, and it was a nightmare. It was one of the worst things I've ever been through. It was really awful. And they're consistently, the ransomware folks, the hackers or whatever, they're consistently going after towns. So it's a real danger. It's kind of like not if, but when we're going to get hit with a ransomware attack.
Yep.
And it could take down town services for months. It's a disaster. So
They already did. It hit the schools.
Yeah, was that what happened to the schools last year? Something happened.
Yeah, and so really what I think companies like what we're probably getting, and I don't want to badmouth the managed service provider, their GDS, because I don't know anything about them, but based on the pricing, we're probably getting what I'd call an MVP, which is a minimally viable product that doesn't even come close to what would be what you'd want from a security standpoint for an organization that we'd run, for example.
What would you pay for, in the private sector for your company? Kinds of profits. What would you pay?
You'd want like EDR or XDR. You'd want some active security monitoring, and you'd want a cohesive plan around it, which you can't have with separate IT departments.
One good first place to start is to put together a chart of our comparative towns and see what services they offer and with what number of staff and how consolidated they are and some metric of efficiency that you can come up with. And by comparing those towns and probably showing that Milton is underfunded and therefore not getting some thing that the other towns are getting, then you can make the argument for why.
I think that's a good idea. If I was gonna play devil's advocate, I'd say a couple things. One, it might be hard to find that. I mean, unless you just get the other towns on the phone, which may be the thing to do. The other thing is, you know, as sort of Larry implied, all towns might be underfunding this.
Doing it bad.
We have,
They're all doing it poorly.
if
Except
we
for
have
Saugus.
some, yeah, except for Saugus. If we
But I
have,
think that would be important to know, because maybe our expectations are not realistic for a town of our size for some reason. Maybe that it just doesn't get prioritized financially because there's so many other things that need to get done. You know?
You know what scares me?
I think I'd look at it a little differently, which is what is the investment that you would need to make that is sound from a security standpoint? That's just sort of the baseline, right?
Yeah, so with the IT committee, we did a full security assessment of the security, the services, the security services that GDS was providing. I can't remember exactly the results of it. And, honestly, personally, that was before I went through the ransomware attack. So I'd probably have a much different, we got it with a much more critical eye now. But I think it might be worthwhile to do that again. And if we're not getting a pen test, I should say, I thought they did do a pen test. I'm pretty sure pen tests are generally required.
Yeah, they had never done one up until last year, and I think their first one was planned, but they've never done a full-blown security assessment.
Yeah, okay.
And there was no plan to, as far as I'm aware. And that's sort of the minimum starter, I think, for a sound organization.
Because if he has to pay additional, I would say that it's worthwhile. He could probably add to his budget, or at least consider adding to the budget for the, for an additional pen test for a full security assessment if it costs money. And I think he'd be able to get that approved just because.
Yeah, and that's
the danger of ransomware attacks.
And so I think, as a warrant committee, really, going back to Jay's question or recommendation, I don't want to get too far off the rails here. I think it's that we open a dialogue with select board, IT committee, and the purse strings, Nick Milano, and say, this is something we think the town should think about really, really, really seriously before something bad happens. And then they need to drive the boat on
Sounds like a special comment that should go in the warrant.
Absolutely.
well,
This is what I was thinking.
hopefully something done before then. And that's the warrant being printed in May.
We're not gonna get hit by
they should
ransomware.
be thinking about it today, right?
So, sorry, go on.
No, there's implications from cyber insurance standpoint. There's implications from sort of a notification costs. You name it. There's just like a long list of they're all negatives, right? There's no upside to a bad event happening. So
You usually wind up coming out the other side with much better security.
Yeah, and I think it'd be really
And a very
useful
secure
to
job.
frame it in what it would cost to mitigate a cyber attack. What do towns end up spending? And what are the, what services are down for how long? Like, I think it's not hard to imagine just how devastating that could be. And I have to imagine there's a lot of people in town who'd be willing to prioritize funding, avoiding that as much as possible.
It's Quincy, I think. Yeah, it's pretty bad. All right.
So
That's good.
what I heard was a couple of different things. I heard Larry talking about we could have savings by consolidating purchase of printers, et cetera. But then, so that was one topic where
That's,
something might be done. But then there's, we need to spend more, and I'm hearing specifically spend on security, not spend on in general, but specifically security. That's the other thing I'm hearing, right?
right.
I mean, security, right? And like invest in the financial systems that allow us to report on things.
Well, yeah, that was
There's
something we discussed earlier tonight, yes.
Financial, yeah. What is the financial system? What is schools investing in data analysis tools so that they can be smarter about how they're tracking outcomes? I mean, there's just like a long list of things, and but do it in sort of coordinated, something that operates within a strategic plan.
Yeah, it's good, I get some takeaways.
Yeah, so do we, again, some of this may not be your job, but we can still raise it up to Mr. Milano or the select board. So, you know, if I'm hearing these two things, you know, consolidate purchasing as well as take a real serious look at our security.
Yeah. Consolidating purchasing is the kind of thing that could go in the comment, but I just don't know if that would be, it's a kind of a major
That's not the priority.
It's a major organizational change. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So I'm not sure they could do it for this budget for this year.
You
But
just
it
said
is something.
significant savings multiple times, and I start dollar signs appear to my eyes, and, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you could get something together this year for this budget, I could ask the question. But the security assessment, I mean, that's just a simple question. Do you have a, you know, what is the plan for a security assessment for this year? And would it make sense to include that in the budget?
Okay.
You know, an additional line item for a security assessment in the budget for this year. That's something we could do for this year, I would think.
Is that
Because-
something, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
does the select board, can they just spend the money if they have it towards something like that? Do they need to wait till
I don't,
May or June?
so you're saying could someone, I think it wouldn't even be the select board, it'd be like the town administrator. If he thinks he has money in the budget, I mean, as we know, when you get to July 1st, you know, any budget that has gone over budget, we'll have to pull it from some other budget. How many times can I use the word budget? So if he thinks it's so important, we're gonna do it, and then we're gonna have to pull it from somewhere,
It's free
maybe,
cash.
there's also, maybe,
Cash.
maybe free cash, maybe there's the, what is the budget that we're in control of? It's $250,000, not stabilization, it's
like a warrant
the,
committee separate.
it's the,
The new thing?
no, not the new thing, it's the one that,
School.
we've had it every year, we used it to pay for a wood chipper.
Oh, yeah.
There's one budget that has $250,000 out of it, and it only needs the warrant committee's okay. So when a wood chipper died for $100,000 a couple years ago, they just had to come to us, we said, okay, they got their $100,000.
You had a slush fund.
I'm not sure what.
That's not what we call it.
We did not have a slush fund when I was the chair.
On a tight ship.
I know.
You can either have a party or do a pen test.
Exactly.
I think we should have a party.
I'm gonna come up with a name, hold on, it's the reserve fund?
It's the J fund.
It's a reserve
Yeah,
fund,
that rings a bell.
yeah, as opposed to the stabilization fund.
It's a thought.
You should call it the J fund.
Not me. Okay, so we had our first evening of going over big budgets. I will say that the schedule I sent around earlier has us meeting every 2 weeks. Obviously off next week for the Thanksgiving, the Monday before Thanksgiving. We'll be meeting the Monday after Thanksgiving to do something like this for Capital, Council on Aging, and DPW. And then 2 weeks after that, Police, Fire, and Parks. So I guess my question, and you can answer now, you can answer later. Well, my goal was to, again, lay the foundation so we know where things stand, so that when we hit the ground running in February, we don't have to revisit this stuff. Was tonight useful? What can make it more useful?
Very useful. I think, I mean, if we all follow the same format, you know, I think it should be good. Just follow the format, you know.
Jay, can you remind us of your email of our assignment?
I think I can. Yes, if you remind me to remind you, especially.
I'd like you to send me like 12
And then
emails.
the
with
ones I
same
listed
thing,
are
so
the
I
big ones that
apologize.
we presented around the table. There are also a lot of, I'll call them little budgets. And what I'd like to see for that is a written version of what we just saw. Like, I don't think anybody needs to sit up here and say, oh, the you know, budget, that's two people and it's the same thing every year and there's nothing interesting about it. But maybe a little write-up of, you know, I talked to the town clerk about her budget and she said this and there's nothing interesting going on. Next, you know, I talked, you know, here's the, yes,
Capital Improvement Planning Committee's this Thursday
Okay.
morning at 7:30, but it's only 30 minutes, and Amy's listing it as a kickoff meeting. So
Okay.
I'm not sure how much information will be
Okay.
available, but
all right.
I'll
Well,
bring whatever I have
you
or see if she has
know,
a schedule.
You're a seasoned hand at the Capitol, so what do you think? Do you think it would be a good use of our time?
I mean, I don't think we've ever had a kickoff meeting. I don't know what that actually means,
Okay.
but I'll let you know after Thursday morning how
Yeah.
much she presented or how much will be ready for the 2
And if
weeks.
nothing else, for new and returning members, you can just go over last year's capital budget. You know, for example, you know, here's bonded capital versus non-bonded capital. Here's what those mean. Let's look at everything we bought without borrowing last year. Let's look at everything we bought with borrowing. Even that, I think, would be a benefit to this committee.
Ron's got a hand raised.
Yeah, shoot. Ron.
Hey, Jay, thanks. I was wondering, does Nick have any high-level thoughts on where the budget's going this year?
That would be of good use too. Especially, we've got $4.5 million of free cash, and I don't know what his thoughts are about using it. And I don't know if he wants to show his hand before like mid-January, but yeah, we can ask.
Yeah, 'cause even if he said the goal is, you know, to keep level spending across all departments, or if he's planning to shuffle some resources around, I think that could help inform how we think about what are the options. So
Okay.
we're not just going and speculating what I think would be nice for the town.
And if he's not planning on funding the accounting software, maybe that's something that the warrant committee thinks about.
And we talked this last year. I mean, it's you can't fund everything, right? And everyone has good ideas, but he needs to look at it across all these requests. So yeah, I think it could be helpful to get his perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him, see if, the December 1st meeting looks a little light. So yeah, see if he can come December 1st. Or we were talking about Amy earlier. I don't know if everybody in the room, if the new members know Amy Dexter, our financial director. Nick and Amy used to be regular visitors here. I haven't called them up as much as in the past. So it might, it might be good to get them here December 1st if that's a good time for them.
Jay, question for you. If we're gonna, me and Nick, if we're gonna look at stabilization funds, do we have to ask them any questions? Like, are we putting recommendations to them in terms of how?
That's a
to
good
use
question. It's also something that's been discussed at the town budget committee that me and Brian are on.
You should send them your presentation, your PowerPoint. you did.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we've talked about it there, and then the select board is putting together a proposal, and then,
it? How they think we should use
they
it?
have, I'd call them policies, they're policies
Overall policies for
Yeah.
how to use the state, for one stabilization fund or specific policies?
for each one.
I see, okay.
But I would say, I've been pushing for something a little more specific than the policies they're having, so we're putting together, they're approving the sort of, I'd say, general policies now, and maybe over the course of the year. So we're sort of working in parallel, and maybe we should get together with Mr. Milano, because even, as far as like, we've got $4.5 million of free cash right now. How is he planning on allocating that this year? That might be a good start to the question discussion.
I could send them the policy that they came up with,
Okay,
if you're
yeah,
okay with that.
yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
that'll help get us a start.
Yeah, see what they're proposing and see what your thoughts are. It's a proposal, but,
No, it's a good start rather than us starting from scratch.
yeah.
Get some guidelines.
And there are several, I spent some time, there are several different stabilization funds, and they all have names that aren't very descriptive, so.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have a
Yeah.
little spreadsheet, so we'll work it out.
Can we all receive that?
The policy for, yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah,
I'll
thanks, Brian.
Send it over, send it to everybody, yeah.
If I wanted to have,
It's not, it's a draft.
Yeah.
It's not
Oh, but
finalized.
My impression from that last meeting was they were pretty close to approving it.
It doesn't have to go to the selectmen and the selectmen approve it, like, I wouldn't wanna
Sure.
say.
Select board.
Yeah,
Select board.
They're women on the select.
but I thought, I joined that meeting late, but I thought that it was gonna, we were talking about it last week, and then the select board finance committee would talk about it, and the select board would approve it. I thought it was pretty close to being done.
I agree. I didn't know if we should formally wait, because in case they have issues with it. the select.
Nah,
the-
people are fine with
We
looking at some of
weighing
the
in
notes and
on,
drafts.
so what we're doing, is that to complement what they're trying to do, or is it?
I'd say yeah, I mean, I started the idea of
They
us
get that
working
far down
together
the
before
line,
they
I don't know what we
even
can
knew they were.
contribute to.
But
Okay.
again, they have like I would describe their capital policy as, it's gonna have at least this much in it, and it can be used for capital. Whereas I would love to have something a little more solid.
Yeah, because I was thinking,
How
looking
much
at
do you
like
put
what
in
are
there every
other
year?
towns doing with their stabilization funds and how are they being used, and then we can give some recommendations on how we would want to put that
And
in
I've kind of done a
policy.
roll forward to see how it's been used in the past.
Yeah, but I just want to do comparatively, like what else?
Which is helpful, because kind of what comes up and what comes in.
I actually have two other towns' policies
Do
on
you?
it too. I'll send
Oh, okay,
those.
yeah, send them
It's
to me,
like a
that's
wealth
fine.
of information.
No, he's a wealth of information, I just gotta ask him.
You start calling you Brian Google.
Okay.
I really appreciate that you are having us get out in front of this.
Thank you for saying that.
Because for people who, it's their first year, there have been many years where it's 3 nights a week for 4 or 5 hours each, and it's hard to think straight about budgets after. So this is a great like pacing and leaves us breathing room for if things come up, we have the background and we can discuss, so I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Just have a quick process question. I was gonna ask this earlier.
Oh,
Is,
yeah.
so I mean, you know, Rob's IT budget wasn't final, you know. He's going to the town accountant sometime this week, you know, reviewing it with him and reviewing it with Nick. So, and then if we make some suggestions and he says, yeah, great idea, I'm gonna put those in the budget. Would we come back and present it again, or we just give a quick update at some point? Oh, here's what's going on with the IT
I
budget.
think that's the idea. If, you know, between now and January, if nothing unexpected happens, if it's pretty much what you thought it was gonna be now, no reason to update us, except to say, yep, it's what we expected.
Okay.
Or if there's a change, like say, you know, yep, they're adding $50,000 for an annual security screening.
Yeah.
You've already set us up to know what that is talking about.
Okay, great. All right.
Does that answer the question you asked?
Perfect. I mean, it's basically how we did the other articles too for October.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a quick
So yeah, in the
update.
spring, we will have non-financial articles. You know, that'll take some time, but, yeah, the more we can,
Oh, God, I hope
because
we-
otherwise, you know, the budget stuff, either we cram it in February and March with all the non-financial articles, or we would just not look at certain things. That happened from year to year. What happened with the library budget? I don't know, it's still the library, okay, it's approved.
Are we done?
I believe, any other discussion? I believe we are done.
Motion to adjourn?
So
I love it.
Thank you.
Good ones though. Good ones.
Oh, they're always
No, no, they were good questions.
Consideration